Hello, this is Miss Havisham again. I'm back at St Lawrence's Church at Eyam, the so-called plague village. I felt I had to come back because after the last video I felt that there was some questions I wanted to ask. I felt that things didn't seem right, and of course nothing really seems right now when you start to look at things more closely. There is nothing Christian about that at all. And like Mick says, that will just be some bricks inside. It's quite interesting to look at the symbolism. It looks like two urns with lilies in them. Now this one I found very interesting, with the all-seeing eye at the top. And the age of the person when she died was 22, which is an important number when you start looking at numerology and events. You often find that number 22 coming up. Now, what I looked into was the story about this plague village, and there was an author called William Woods, and that's probably a pseudonym, because when you think you can't see the woods for the trees, so I think it's all a play on words. Once again, there's the Celtic cross. So this author, he wrote fictional stories about a village called Milton, and that was actually based on the village of Eyam, but in the stories he called it Milton. So that's probably got some poetic licence. Now this is the stone, memorial stone, for the Reverend Thomas Stanley, who was the former rector of St Lawrence's Church until he was thrown out when Mompesson was brought in, because Mompesson was a Puritan and Stanley was in favour of the monarchy, so they wanted to get rid of him, but he was thrown out and Mompesson was brought in. Now this stone, it's not in very good condition, and is that the only stone? It said he was very highly thought of, but this is the only stone that, you know, it's all faded. Anyway, that's the stone for the Reverend Thomas Stanley. He came back and helped Mompesson once the plague took hold, supposedly. I mean, I believe it's all a fictional story now because of this guy, William Woods, the author, who wrote these books, stories about this village called Milton that was based on Eyam, and also he found that there were some legends connected to the village of Eyam, legends concerning that some people may have died of plague in Eyam, but that was really all it was, and I think he built it up into a story. He built it up into a story. This was in the mid-1800s. And so I think it's all just a story that was invented. Now, this character Mompesson, when you think about it, I mean, I'm a very interested person in Charles Dickens. I really like his stories and books. And but he did write from his experiences. The bells chiming there. He did write from his experiences in 1800s London, and also he wrote characters based on characters that he actually saw. So all the characters in his books, they're all about real people, real characters. But the book of Great Expectations, obviously my alter ego, Miss Havisham, she was jilted at the altar by a man called Compeyson. Now this is something that it struck me, that the name Mompesson, I always thought that was an unusual name, and then when you link it with, at the same era, Charles Dickens had written Great Expectations, and the man who jilted Miss Havisham was called Compeyson, and I think all he's done is change the letter. So this William Woods guy, well, this is his tomb now, I believe that he has changed the name of Compeyson to Mompesson and put him in as the Reverend Vicar, who was the Puritan, who was come to Eyam, to St Lawrence's Church. Now, he died June 27th, 1865. Author of the History and Antiquities of Eyam, Tales and Traditions of the Peak. Men, but like visions are, time all doth claim, he lives who dies, and leaves a lasting name. That's a big urn on the top. Everything is symbolism, nothing is by accident. This is what we're finding now. The more that you look into things and you find that nothing is as it seems, and we are living in really a fake realm, and we're living on a film set, and I feel that this is a film set that I'm walking on now. It seems different from when I was here before. It was in the autumn. Now we're in winter, and it's almost, well, at Christmas people call it, but it's Yuletide. It's the celebration of the Yule, which is a totally pagan festival. This is the other side. Sarah, the wife of William Wood, departed this life March the 15th, 1886, in her 77th year. 77, so I'm not sure I believe these ages. William Woods was 60, that's number 6, and his wife was 77. So I don't believe, you know, these numbers. I think they're all symbolic. I'll just read a bit more on the other side. This monument was erected by his neighbours and friends to record their high opinion of his upright and faithful character, and their admiration of his genius and literary attainments. Well, if the people were very poor, who can afford to pay money for a monument like this? It must have cost a fortune. So, I'm not sure who the friends were, but somebody's paid for that memorial. This ground is uneven. That's the equidistant cross, which is, in fact, it comes from Atlantis, and it's got the sun symbolism around it. Now this place is very, very weird. It just feels as if you're walking on a film set. See the hills over there. All this area was mining, lead mining and weaving. That's what the people did and earned a living by. And then that all finished, and it was starting to peter out in the 1800s. And this guy writes this story to link it with these plague deaths. Now, Apparently, all the deaths were over by November 1st, 1666. Now that date is significant. All the deaths were over by November the 1st. That's All Saints' Day. That is a pagan holiday. I can't get the holly for Christmas. Holiday. So all the deaths were over by November the 1st, All Saints' Day. That means that on All Hallows Eve, October 31st, that's the night when the pagans are doing their rituals, which involve sacrifice. And I believe that this is what it's symbolising. It's symbolising the deaths were over by All Saints' Day, November the 1st. All the deaths were over, yeah, all the sacrifices were done. So I believe it's all symbolic, and it's all pagan, and there's nothing Christian whatsoever about any of this. I'm just walking a bit around while I'm talking to let you see lots and lots of graves, and they're all very weathered. Some are a bit more newer. Apart from Catherine Mompesson's tomb, you won't find anything that's going back before the 1800s. And I think that number was chosen, 1666, when she's supposed to have died of plague through nursing other villagers, which I don't believe. Now on that same day, November the 1st, 1755, that's when there was the earthquake. There was also felt the rumbling in the lead mines in Eyam. I read this in the papers that were in the Royal Society. You can actually look it up online. I found this by accident some time ago, about this reference to Eyam. And they felt the rumblings in the lead mines. Now, that also occurred on November the 1st, All Saints' Day, 1755. That earthquake, it killed many tens of thousands of people, many in Portugal and going across all the way to Morocco. But it killed many people as well who were in the church celebrating All Saints' Day in the church in Portugal. The church collapsed and many 60,000 people died. I think it was in many 60,000 died, and many were in the church celebrating All Saints' Day. So I think this is all connected with the pagan festival of All Saints' Day, Hallows Eve, on October 31st. And it ties in with Eyam, because the rumblings of that earthquake were felt in Eyam. So there's a link there, anyway, historically. It goes all the way right down there. I'm not going down there. What I'm hoping to do is to go into the church, so I'm going to go down there now because the door was open. Also, the Reverend Stanley, I find that that's also strange because I think these names are made up. I think the characters are fictional. The names are made up. And churches are built on ley lines. The power vortices under the earth, there is a grid, and the ley lines are where churches are always built on a ley line. So I believe that the reason why this guy was given the name Reverend Stanley is because he's standing on a ley. The Reverend Thomas Stanley. Now Thomas, that name as well, if you look in the Bible, Doubting Thomas was one of the disciples, was Doubting Thomas. So I think that's why they've given him that name. He's doubting. He's doubting what Mompesson was doing. He didn't agree with it. That's why he was thrown out of the vicarage. And they brought in, supposedly, this guy, Mompesson, made up name, Mompesson Compesson. It's all from the Victorian days, and I think this Reverend Thomas Stanley, he was a doubting Thomas, and he was standing on the ley line, and that's why he's called Thomas Stanley. This is what I've worked out. Here I am inside the church. Christmas tree, of course. There's someone over there as well, try and keep out of the way. So, Christmas is Yule, the festival of Yule, which is the Yule log, the burning of the Yule log. The stars. It's all satanic, Lucifer stars, satanic. Some paintings on the walls up there were uncovered when they were decorating. This is a phoenix, satanic bird. Pipe organ, of course. Pipe organs are very much under discussion at the moment. Create the vibrations. I don't know what's going on in there. It's all dark and curtained off. There's a curtain across. I don't know what that's all about. A bit mysterious. I might even notice things after I've finished filming, and I might notice things later, which is often the case, but you don't actually see them at the time when you're filming. But Christmas was not celebrated in this country until the late 1700s. It was Yule, the festival of Yuletide, which is all pagan. It was really only promulgated by Charles Dickens when he wrote the book Christmas Carol in 1843, when he wrote the book for one of his 4 Christmas books that he wrote. And that sort of changed the meaning as to going to help the poor people less fortunate make it into a parable to see what will happen if you don't try and help people now while you're on this earthly realm. What will happen afterwards, as with the ghost of Jacob Marley. Now that's the window dedicated to William Mumperson. I don't believe any of it. The picture there on the window of Stanley and Mumperson discussing what they were going to do. Stanley was coerced into assisting Mumperson into quarantine the village so that they would all stay and die rather than passing the plague on. I don't think people would do that. I think they would try and escape if they could. Parcel of cloth that came from London, I don't believe it. It was supposed to be so that the tailor could make clothes for the villagers for Wakes weeks. Now that's, I always wondered, did they really have Wakes weeks back then? I don't think so. Wakes weeks is WW, that's a 33 in numerology. So also the fact that William and his wife was called Catherine, so there we have a William and a Catherine. The initials are W and C, they're 33. I think that's very strange that they were called William and Catherine. Make of that what you will. This picture there, I don't like that at all. It looks like a fire. Totally satanic. It's a satanic fire. There's nothing Christian about that, I'm afraid. I don't like that at all. It's a very big church. I'm surprised when you get inside it's not very big. Just all this. Basically it's all just all fiction. I'm afraid it really is. I'm afraid that this was all brought in to make people believe if you do what you're told and you go to work and don't question anything, then you'll find your place in heaven after your life of toil is over. And it just makes people just do as they're told, basically. Because before the 1700s, this country was not a Christian country. It was pagan, and it was Druid. Going back, this country was Druid. It was originally called Albany, and back then it was a Druid country. There was nothing Christian until the late 1700s, and Christianity was brought in with the churches, which we think that now that they weren't churches originally, they were power stations. They were using the energy, the free energy, and whatever else was going on in these power stations. They were made into churches, and then they brought in Christianity to control the populace. But before that, it was all pagan. And I'm just looking at these pictures on the wall. It's about the Celtic cross. The Saxon font. That's if you believe that. I feel we need to just question everything now of our reality, because it's not what we've been told. And this is all telling us about the plague, the decision to isolate. This is the picture of Mumperson. He was a Puritan. Puritan belief is that enjoyment is unnecessary in life. It's not necessary to have any enjoyment in life and in fact it can actually be harmful. That was his belief. So where's the Christianity there? Yeah, so I'm just looking at this. That Ringa Ringa Roses, pocket full of posies. A tissue, we all fall down. That's supposed to symbolise the plague. But it looks like a holly wreath. It looks more like a holly wreath. Yeah. Plague romance. That sounds about right. Plague romance. Well, this is someone who had been, a girl who had been courting someone from the nearby Stony Middleton. And when Eyam was closed off, the sweethearts continued to meet secretly in the Delph. As the months wore on, 6 out of the 8 in this guy's family died, or it would be 6. 6. She begged him to stay away from his home village of Eyam, but they never met again, because then she too died, this young girl called Emmett Siddall. She too died of plague. And then it said that this guy Roland, he entered Eyam after the plague, and he was given the sad news that she'd succumbed to plague. He lived to an old age and never married. It's all just a story, it's all just fiction, basically. And the Hancocks, it says one of the most tragic stories was a farming family who lived in an isolated part of the village. Mrs. Hancock, she buried 6 children and her husband. The picture showing dragging the children to bury them. So the villagers watched her from a distance. They couldn't come near to help her. But she buried 6 children. And again, that number 6 again. Yeah, so just wondering if there's anything else that I've missed out. That's just a statue of Isis with Horus, basically. So I've gone around the church. I don't think I can see anything else in the church that I want to look at. Let's look at the Christmas tree. Christmas trees were only brought in the 1800s as well. Of course, Luciferian star on the top. The box asking for donations as usual. Should be the other way around. The church should be helping the paupers of the parish, not the paupers helping the church. I'm just going out now. That's just my view, that's my opinion. That there's nothing about it that is as we were told. Look at those gargoyles up there. Scary. Looking at us. These are not what we think they are. I didn't walk around this bit last time, so I'll come round this bit. Someone here was very wealthy. It's a big tomb with the iron railings around. That would have cost a fortune. Why not think of the living, spend money on the living, not this massive tomb for these wealthy people? Everything's the wrong way around. Which it is, everything doesn't make sense in this realm that we're on. Nothing makes sense. It's fallen over there. This place is really spooky the more you look at it. Another chest tomb. Churches are built on a certain spot for a reason. It's a power vortice in the earth. Taking the power from the earth. And then with the pipe organs, it creates a really overwhelming power. Combined with the power vortice in the earth, the ley line it's built on, and then the pipe organ. When it's tuned to a certain frequency, musical notes, can create things to happen. Things that we're not aware of at this time. Just going to walk back over where I started. These are just some really old stones. Now that one is an old, that one says 1665 on it. But it's very rare to find any stones, any gravestones before the late 1700s. They're old markers. You see them everywhere. Outside churches and cathedrals, but they're really old ones. And these, that's sun symbols. The sun wheel, that's what that is, sun wheel. Sundial. Nothing Christian about this place. Back to where I started. Catherine Mompesson's tomb. That's in Latin. But that's the hourglass, and with the wings, hourglass and the wings to symbolise passing time, and that's, I suppose that's to symbolise the spirit going up to heaven. It doesn't make sense to me why the wife of the vicar has to have a big tomb